Christopher Walken gets sexually experimented on by aliens. Prisoners get hunted for sport in a Reagan dystopia. These 80s sci-fi movies sound fake, but they're real, and they're better than half the stuff on Netflix right now.
Kevin, is this incredible or what?
SpaceCamp had the worst timing in movie history. Director Harry Weiner made this fun adventure film about kids who go to NASA's actual space camp, which was a real thing, by the way, and the grand prize on every game show in the 80s if you were a kid. 5 teenagers, ages 12 to 17, are training in a shuttle when a cranky robot accidentally ignites a booster. To save them, NASA launches them into actual space. And now these untrained kids have to figure out how to survive and get back to Earth. It's a wish fulfillment fantasy for every kid who wanted to be an astronaut but didn't want to wait decades to do it. The score was by John Williams. The kids were played by actors like Leah Thompson and Tate Donovan, and it had Tom Skerritt and Kate Capshaw as the adults. It should have been huge, but it opened just a few months after the Challenger disaster. A movie about a space shuttle disaster opening right after the real-life Challenger tragedy. The timing destroyed it, which is a shame because it's actually a great film. The kids are quirky and flawed in realistic ways, and it manages to be both a disaster movie and an exciting adventure at the same time. Disney Plus was going to remake it, but the plans fell through, probably for the best.
It's okay.
Somehow I don't think that's gonna make him feel any better.
It's 1986, and producer Charles Band is having an absolutely insane year. He's producing from Beyond, Rawhead Rex, and TerrorVision all at the same time, and somewhere in the middle of all that, he decides to make a movie called Eliminators. The main character is a mandroid named John. That's a guy whose torso can attach to either robotic legs or tank treads, depending on what the scene needs. He gets sent back in time to find a scientist named Colonel Hunter, who's played by Denise Crosby. She'd just beaten out 5 other actresses to land the role of Tasha Yar on Star Trek, and here she is in this thing. So the Mandroid and Colonel Hunter team up with a little floating robot buddy, and they need to cross a river to get to a jungle lab. So they hire some Indiana Jones knockoff named Harry Fontana. And then, because why not, they also pick up a ninja who wants revenge on the evil time-traveling scientist for killing his father. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon came to life, and director Peter Manoogian knew exactly what he was doing. The budget was tiny, but the Mandroid effects actually looked pretty good, and the whole thing has this earnest energy that makes it work. If you were a kid in 1986 who loved monster movies, this was a good time to be alive.
I saw this in a movie once.
Australian director Brian Trenchard Smith is one of those filmmakers where if you don't know his work, you're missing out. In the mid-70s, Australia changed its censorship laws, and suddenly there was this explosion of sex and violence in Australian cinema. Trenchard Smith was right at the front of it, making exploitation movies. His calling card came in 1982 with Turkey Shoot, which is set in the distant future of 1995. The 80s moral police have taken over the world, and deviants are being sent to prison camps for re-education. But really, these camps are just places where inmates get hunted for sport. Steve Railsback plays an innocent shopkeeper who gets thrown in there and has to survive. The movie is wildly violent and definitely fun, but it's also genuinely surreal. Like there's a werewolf in it. For no clear reason, the prison warden has a genetically engineered beast man working for them. Nobody explains why. It's obviously a shot at Reagan's America and Thatcher's Britain, this nightmare vision of where conservative moral panic could lead. Trenchard Smith made it in 1982, and somehow 44 years later in 2026, it's still timely, which is kind of depressing when you think about it.
Yeah. They're going to make obedient little citizens out of us.
Who are? What do you mean?
Society.
In 1985, author Whitley Strieber started having disturbing dreams. He was at a remote cabin with friends when he saw this large-eyed being in his bedroom. Over the following months, his dreams got worse. Lanky gray aliens, blue-skinned gnome creatures. It was putting a strain on his marriage, threatening to drive him crazy. He did hypnotic therapy and recovered memories of being abducted by aliens. Apparently, they performed medical and sexual experiments on him. He wrote about all of this in a 1987 book called Communion: A True Story. It became a massive hit and basically shaped alien abduction lore for the next decade. In 1989, he adapted it into a screenplay for director Philippe Mora. Stryber had specific demands. He wanted the film to stay pure to his experience, so it had to be small and independent. A studio would have added explosions and gratuitous effects, but he also agreed to never visit the set or give Mora any input while he was directing. Christopher Walken played Stryber, and the result is this surprisingly intimate adult film about how alien abduction tears someone apart from the inside. It's not about spectacle, it's about confronting something your mind isn't equipped to handle. It's genuinely haunting and pretty damn great.
No wonder that I can't write my great American novel.
Jonathan Betuel wrote The Last Starfighter, which was a huge hit. So, in 1985, he wrote and directed My Science Project, which should have been another success story. A car-obsessed teenager needs a killer science project to pass his class. He finds a piece of alien technology that the Air Force buried in 1957 after a UFO crash. And because he's a teenager, his first instinct is to plug it in. That turns out to be a very, very bad idea. The gizmo starts flinging things in and out of time and space, unleashing historical chaos all over the school and town. The only hope is for this kid, his friend, and one geeky girl to figure out how to shut it down. The movie was in theaters for about 2 weeks. Literally 2 weeks, and then it was gone. It's got pacing issues and the soundtrack's not great, but it's still a fun ride if you're into 80s sci-fi where science geeks save the day. The 80s were full of that stuff. Weird science, real genius, war games, Ghostbusters. My Science Project got steamrolled by all of them and basically disappeared.
How's that possible?
It's not possible.
In 1983, Lizzie Borden made this weird low-budget dystopian sci-fi that barely anyone's seen. Decades later, Slash Film called it one of 5 movies from the 1980s that captured the meaning of life. That's a hell of a claim for an obscure movie. The setup is that a social revolution happened 10 years ago, but it didn't fix anything. You've got these 2 rival radio DJs running their own stations and spending all their time attacking each other. Women are getting attacked on the streets, so some of them form an army and start going vigilante. And while all this infighting is happening, the government's taken over by people who want to roll everything back. They're literally proposing to pay women to stay home and be housewives. What makes it work as sci-fi is that Borden's showing you this dystopian future where the good guys already won. And yet they're still losing because they can't stop fighting each other long enough to notice the real threat. It's basically a nightmare version of 1994 that still feels possible in 2026.
We still see the depression from the oppression that still exists both day and night.